Hello guys, in this episode you will learn how to build a simple e-commerce application using AWS Amplify and React Native. Before that guys, in this tutorial I am assuming that you have a prior experience in React Native, so I will not cover the React Native code in depth. We will discuss how to build React Native applications that use AWS Amplify as their backend. With AWS Amplify, it will be a lot easier to get your React Native projects up and running. If you are interested in this content, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos just like this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below. First, let me show you a quick demo on what we will build in this tutorial. Okay, this is our application. Now I'm in the home screen. We can add new products by providing some details. We can view all those products in our home screen. We got this list of products. Users can create their account and then they can sign into our application. When we sign back in, we are back in our home screen. Okay, next we will look into the AWS architecture diagram for this mobile app. Of course, we will build our application using React Native. AWS Amplify will create, configure and manage all these AWS services that we are going to use. So you saw the demo. In each product we have an image. We will use an S3 bucket to store those images. Amazon Cognito will handle authentication for this app. We have a GraphQL API provided by AWS AppSync. This API will handle CRUD operations for products. This AppSync API will use BTL templates or velocity templates to connect with our DynamoDB database, which will in the end store all our product data. And also guys, AWS Amplify will provide all the mutations and queries we need with this GraphQL API. Now this is not a very complex architecture diagram. Amplify makes it much easier to work with these different services. You will see as we go on with this tutorial. Okay guys, let's start building this app. And guys, you will find a link to this blog post in the video description as well. To save some time, throughout this tutorial I will refer code snippets in this blog post. Now before starting guys, these are the prerequisites that you will have to install. You will need Node.js 10 or later, npm version 5 or later. You will need to install the Amplify CLI. Since we are developing a React Native application, you will need to download and set up your Android Studio environment. And if you are on a Mac, you need to set up Xcode. We will use the good old React Native CLI to build this application. Okay, let's start things out by installing and configuring the Amplify CLI. Now installing and configuring Amplify CLI is not a big deal. We see it all the time when we are developing on AWS. And AWS Amplify docs got this cool guide on how to download and install the Amplify CLI. I will briefly explain the steps to you. Now you need to install this Amplify CLI using npm, using this command right here. Next, you need to run Amplify configure in your terminal. Then you will be asked to sign into your AWS console. There you need to create a new IAM user. It won't take more than 3 steps. Now back in your terminal, you need to specify the region and the username for that IAM user. Only when you create a new IAM user, AWS will provide you a secret access key and access key ID for that IAM user. You need to enter those in your terminal to configure your Amplify CLI. And you can set up a profile name. Hopefully, this should be the last prompt you see. Let's set up our React Native application now. First, install the React Native CLI using npm. We need to install that globally. Okay, next we need to create a new React Native app. So in your project directory, type in React Native init and the project name you like. I'm going to name this Amplify Shop and press enter. Okay, now you can open this React Native app using your IDE. I will use this IntelliJ IDE. We got this project structure and this app.js file. Let's run this application. So open the terminal in your project directory. We need two terminal windows. In one window, run React Native start. And on the other, you can run React Native run Android. So I will use this Android emulator to view our app. And it is still executing. Nice, we got our React Native app running on our emulator. Now, this is one way of running your app. Since I'm using this IDE, I can run my app easily by adding this React Native configuration. Close this out here. And let's close our application. And click this add configuration button. And in your templates, go to React Native and click this add icon here. We don't need to edit anything here, just we need to specify the name and click apply. Now if we run our app using this debugger menu, we got this debugger console as well. Yeah, it loads on our emulator. Okay, now we have created a new React Native app. Now let's initialize an Amplify backend for this app. Open the terminal in your project directory. Type in Amplify init and press enter. Provide the name for your project, Amplify Shop. And select the IDE, IntelliJ IDE. You can accept the default from now on. Do you want to use an AWS profile? Select yes. And select the profile that you have created earlier. Okay, we can skip this installation process. Now guys, when you initialize an Amplify backend, mainly it does three things. It will create this AWS export.js file in this directory. This file will store all the relevant information to identify the AWS resources or services that we will allocate in the future. It creates this directory called Amplify. Amplify will store all the templates and configuration details in this directory. So that's the beauty of Amplify. We don't have to worry about any of these JSON configurations in our project. And also this directory will hold our GraphQL schema as well. Finally, it creates an Amplify project in the AWS cloud. We can view that project in the AWS console using this Amplify console command. So if you type in Amplify console here and press enter and select Amplify console, we can see our Amplify project. Now we have only created the project, so it's just saying created here. And we will work with most of the services here. Now, the Amplify backend framework provides mainly 3 services. We get Amplify libraries. We can use these methods from Amplify libraries in order to talk to the backend resources. As an example, if we want to use an S3 bucket in our app, we get storage class from AWS Amplify library. We get Amplify CLI. We can use Amplify CLI to configure all their services. We get Amplify UI components. Amplify provides UI libraries for React, React Native, Angular, Ionic, and Vue. We will work with all 3 of these services. Now we need to install Amplify libraries and Amplify React Native UI components. You will find it all bundled up in here. So let's copy these and install them using npm. Now if you are developing in IaaS, you need to install the pod dependencies as well. Okay, now it has been installed. To use AWS services like S3, Cognito, we need to configure Amplify in a higher order component. So let's do that. Configuring Amplify in our pub.js file or index.js file will do the job. So let's copy this into our index.js file. We can close this out here. We can paste it here. In here we are importing details about the services from our AWS export.js file. In here we are saying something like this. If anywhere in our project we are trying to save an image, store it in this S3 bucket. S3 is an only one service. Since we are using a Cognito Authentication and AppSync API, it will do a similar kind of job. Now that took some time, however it is important to understand these things. We have created a new React Native app. We initialize an Amplify backend for that app. Now let's add services one by one. The first service that we are going to use is Cognito Authentication. Open the terminal in your project directory and type in amplify at .auth. Press enter, select default configuration, username. No, I'm done. Okay, now if we type amplify status and press enter, this will showcase the changes you have done in your local Amplify project. You can see that we have created a new auth service now. To deploy those changes into the AWS cloud, we can use this amplify push command. Just like git push, this will sync our project with the cloud Amplify project. Select yes. We can skip this process for now. Okay, now if we go onto Amplify console and refresh, we can see these new logs, just like git commits. If we go to authentication here and select this View in Cognito button, it will open your app's Cognito user pool. At the moment, we don't have any users. Okay, let's use authentication UI components provided by Amplify. Now we have added the libraries using npm. Now we only have to enter these 2 lines of code and Amplify will take care of the rest. So in our app.js file, down here at this import, we are importing this with authenticator component, and when we export our app.js file, we can export it with this with authenticator wrapper. This with authenticator automatically detects the authentication state of our application and updates the UI accordingly. If we run our app now, okay, yeah, the login screen shows up. Let's create a new account, sign up. We need to enter a username, password, a valid email, and we need to add a contact number as well. Click sign up, and we need to add this confirmation code. Refresh it here, and there it is. Let's copy and paste it in this confirm text box. Confirm, and if we enter the username, password, and if we sign in, we are back inside our app screen. Just incredible. We added the entire authentication for our application with just 2 lines of code. Before adding any other services, let's add navigation to our app. In our blog post, if we go up here, we got this 2 screen. This home screen which will show all the products, and this other screen to add new products. Let's create 2 new files to define these screens. Let's create a new directory called src. Let's save our files in this screens folder. A new JavaScript file. Add product screen. And another JavaScript file called home screen. And copy this code snippet from the blog post down here. Copy it. And paste it in these 2 files. This is home screen in our add product screen. Paste it here. We need to change this component name into our add product screen. Down here as well. And we need to change this into add product. Now there are multiple ways to add navigation into our React Native apps. In this tutorial, I will use this Stack Navigator library. First, we should install this React Navigation npm package. So open the project terminal and install it using npm. And we need to install these third-party dependencies as well. Copy all of this here. And paste it in our terminal. While it is installing, if we search React Navigation and click on this link, You should see this guide on how to add React navigation into our React Native apps. I am using this React Stack Navigation library. Now all the dependencies have been installed. Now if you are using an older version than React Native 0.6, you need to run React Native link. And if you are developing in iOS, you need to install these pod dependencies as well. To finish installing React Navigation library, we need to add this import in our app.js file or index.js file. Copy it here and let's paste it in our index.js file. I will use another two styling libraries as well. So React Native Elements and React Native Vector Icons library. Let's install those using npm. npm install React Native Elements and npm install React Native Vector Icons. Now to use this one-tasm icons, we need to add this line of code in our build.gradle file. Move into Android app build.gradle file. Paste this right at the bottom. Save it here and let's close it. Now in our app.js file, we can define our app navigation. Replace the current code with this code. Don't worry, I will explain the code. Clear it all here and paste it. We will need this button component later. And down here, we still have this with authenticator wrapper. If we were to explain the code, we are first creating a stack navigator. And we are using this navigation container wrapper as well. And we have this stack navigator. We can define an initial route name for that. And we can define each screen using this stack.screen component. We got home and we got add product. So each screen has a name, component and options. As the component, we are passing what we should render in that page. And we can use this options property to add custom header. Now that's what I'm exactly doing here. We can define a header title, styles, and through this header right component, we can define a button to navigate between these pages. In here as well, we are trying to navigate into our add product screen using this navigation to navigate, and we need to pass the screen name. And down here, we are using icons as well. Okay, now we can do a test run. If we rerun our application, and if we sign into our app now, we should provide a username and a password. Yeah, we are back in our home screen. And when we click this add icon, we are in our add product screen. And we can use this back button to navigate back to our home screen. Now in app.js file, we are defining our add product screen after our home screen. Since we are using this stack navigation, This add product screen will render on top of this home screen. Now users need to sign out from our app as well. Now let's add a logout button right here. Let's add it using header left property. I have created a logout button in my blog post. Copy it here. And if we were to clear this onPress function just for now, yeah, we can see our logout button. Now on press of this button, we need to end user's logged in session. For that, we need this auth library. So let's import it up here. Import auth from AWS Amplify. On press, we should call this auth.signout method. So this logged out users automatically get redirected to Amplify's sign-in page. And auth class has these sign-in, sign-up methods as well. We can use these methods to define a custom authentication flow. We won't do that in this tutorial. And if we were to test our logout function, if we click this logout button, we got redirected to login screen. If we log back in by entering our username and password and click sign in, we are back in our home screen. Okay, now that we added authentication for our app, let's add that product saving functionality in our add product screen. To save data, we need a database. As always, we don't talk directly to a database. We will talk through an AppSync GraphQL API. Okay, let's start by provisioning an AppSync API for our project. So open the terminal in your project directory and type in Amplify add API. Select GraphQL. API name, you can choose the default. And choose the default authorization type into Amazon Cognito user pool. Do you want to configure advanced settings? Select yes. And configure additional auth types, again yes. And select API key and press enter. Enter a description, something like guest. And you can accept the defaults from here. A single object with many fields. Do you want to edit the schema now? I will show you how to get there. Close the terminal. So in our project, go to this Amplify directory. In there we have this backend folder. So in our Amplify directory, we have this backend folder. And move into this API folder as well. And we got this schema.graphql file. Open it. Now this is where we can edit our schema. So I have a schema in my blog post. Let's replace it here. And we will use this single object model in this tutorial, this product model. And we don't need any subscriptions. That's why subscriptions are set to null. Next, we have these auth rules, 2 of them. And we have these attributes. Now with these auth rules, we state that all the users other than the record owner can access that record. But they can only read that record. Only the record owner is able to do all the operations. And down here we are defining our fees for our product model. We got ID, name, description, price, user ID, username, and image. Now since we store our image in S3 bucket, this image field will hold sort of a link. We are mainly using these three data types: string, ID, and float. This exclamation mark says that this ID and name fields are required. Save this schema here. Now we only updated our local backend. Now we need to deploy those changes into the cloud. So let's do an Amplify push. Amplify push and press enter. And are you sure you want to continue? Select yes. Do you want to generate code? Yes. And select JavaScript and accept the defaults from here. Okay, we deployed our local changes. Now in order to view our AppSync API, you can type in Amplify API console and select GraphQL, and a new window should be opened. Yeah, it does. And now this is our AppSync console. You could play around with some GraphQL operations here. I will do so later in this tutorial. And since we are using Cognito user pool as an authorization for our backend, we need to log in as a new user in here as well. Select the client ID and you need to enter the username and password. Okay, now I have logged in as a user. Back in our project, let's close this up here. In our add product screen, we need to add a form to submit product details. So we will use this tcom form native npm package. Now this is a really cool npm package. We can use this to quickly spin up a form. First, let's install it using npm. In your project terminal, npm install tcom form native. Now I have prepared this form using tcom form native. Let's add that into our add product screen. Replace what we have here. And up here this should be import. In this returning statement, you can see that I am not returning any text form fields here. Instead, we have this form component. With tcom, we can define our model and the form will be automatically generated. So in our schema, user only needs to enter this name, description and price. We must pick up user ID and username in the background. Now if we go through this add product screen line by line, first we are defining our model here. Next, then we have these two state variable, one to retrieve users input and the other to set initial values into our form. Not only a model, we can pass additional options into our form component. So our description text field is a multi-line text field. We can achieve a multi-line text input by passing this multi-line property. Now down here, when we tap on this save button, this handle submit function will get called. Now if we view our form, let's rerun our app now. We can go to add product screen. We got this nice form here. Now in this handle submit function, we should save users input in our database. First, let's import these auth and API libraries along with this GraphQL operation function. Import auth, API and GraphQL operation function. All these imports will be bundled up in this AWS Amplify library. And guys, I forgot to share earlier, when you push our GraphQL schema into AWS Cloud, the GraphQL queries and mutations will be generated automatically. If we move on to this GraphQL folder and into this mutations JavaScript file, we got the required mutations that we need with our product model. Create product mutations, delete product mutations, and update product mutation. In our queries JavaScript file, similarly, we have all the queries that we need with our product model. We have get product and list products. Now back in our add product screen, we need this create product mutation. Let's import it. Import it in the brackets. And that's about it for the imports. Let's update this handle submit function. First, we need to fetch user's input from that form state variables. We can do that by calling this form.getValue function. So we are passing this state variable as a reference to our form component. Now, since we also need user ID and username, we need to fetch details about the user who is currently logged into our app. We can do that by calling this auth.currentAuthenticated_user function. And we can fetch this user ID and username from there. We got all the values we need. Now we can call that create product mutations down here. Await API.GraphQL. We need to pass in the GraphQL operation function. Then we can pass in the create product mutation. And as the second argument, we need to pass the inputs. Inputs should be an object with key value pairs. What do we need to pass in here? First, we should pass the name. We can fetch the name by calling this value.name. And next, we need to pass in the price. We can get that by calling value.price. And description should be value.description. Now as the user ID, we need to pass in an unique value to identify our user. Every user has a unique attribute called sub, which is given by Cognito user pool. We can get that by calling this user.attributes.sub. Now as the username, we can pass user.username. Now since we are calling another resource, there are all sort of things that could go wrong. So let's include this in a try-catch block. For this tutorial, I am only console logging the error message. Hopefully we don't get any errors. And let's move this API call into our try block. Just to see if this worked, we can print the response as well. Let's save that in a variable. And down here we can print it. Okay, let's recheck just to make sure we are passing all the imports. And at the end, we are console logging the response. Oh, in here, this should be GraphQL operations. I think we are importing a wrong function. Yeah, this should be GraphQL operations or needs to be capital. And down here as well. Fingers crossed, let's rerun our app to see how it goes. If you go to this add product screen, let's add a name, a price and a description. And if we tap on save, in our console we can see the response. We got all these values. Image is still set to null because we didn't add that yet. And we can use AppSync console to check again. So back in our AppSync console, if we run this GraphQL query, list products query, we should be able to list all the products. So query list products, and list products items name, ID and user ID. If we execute this query, we fetched our saved product. Now in this form, user should be able to upload an image as well. Now let's add that image uploading option. First, go to our blog post and install this React Native image picker library. And open the terminal and install it using npm. When installing, if you are developing in iOS, install the port dependencies, and if you are running on older React Native CLI, use this React Native link command as well. Okay, now it has been installed. And one more important thing here guys, if you want to use this React Native image picker library, we need to update the minimum SDK version of our app. We can do that by going into this Android folder and this build.gradle file, and we need to update the minimum SDK version into at least 21. Save this file and close it. Now let's add the third and final resource that we are going to use in this tutorial. Let's add an S3 bucket into our app. In our project terminal, type in Amplify storage. This will assign a new S3 bucket into our app. Select content images and accept the defaults. Select auth users only, and we need to do all the operations as well. And do you want to add a lambda trigger? Select no. Okay, now you know what we must do next. We need to deploy these changes into AWS Cloud. Type in Amplify push and press enter. Are you sure you want to continue? Select yes. And we can skip the installation process here as well. Now we have successfully created an S3 bucket to store our images. First we need to go into our AWS Amplify console again. Select Amplify console here as well. There we can see the list of resources that we have provisioned for our Amplify app. We got Authentication, API and file storage. Now click File Storage and click this View in S3. Now it will open our S3 bucket console in a new tab. At the moment we don't have any objects. Let's upload some images and come back here. Now back into our blog post, we need an image uploader component in our app. Now I did build a fancy image uploader component. Let's use that in our project. In our src directory, let's create a new folder to store our custom components. And let's name these components, and let's create a new JavaScript file, image uploader. Add our component. Paste it here. Now instantly after selecting an image, the user will have a preview of the selected image. And we are triggering this handle choose photo function here as well. And down here we got some basic styling. Now back in our add product screen, now we want to use that image uploader component in our form. Let's add that. Before the button here, and we need to pass this state variable and function into our image uploader component. So in here, copy this state variable and function. And we need to add these imports as well. And we will use this storage library as well. And we are calling this handle choose photo function when the user wants to select an image. We are saving that image in a state variable. In this handle choose photo function, you may find something strange here. When the user wants to select an image, we are setting initial values for our form. Now if we don't do that here, let me just remove this. State variable, down here we don't pass any initial values. Now if we were to test this out, let's add a name, price and description we don't need. And if we select an image, when we come back here, the initial values are gone. That's why before entering our image library, we have to set initial values there as well. Now let's undo those operations. Now we need to upload that selected image into our S3 bucket. Let's check for a null value first. If we have an image, since we only get the URI from this image picker library, we need to fetch that image first. Now in order to upload that image, we need to convert that image into this blob format. We'll do that. Await photo response.blob. Now we can upload that image using this storage.put function. In here we need to pass the file name, photo.file name, and the image in this blob format. And finally we pass the content type. This should be an image. Now this will save our image in this S3 bucket. Now somehow we need to save a link to that image in our database. Now in Amplify we don't save the complete link to our image. To access our image file, all we need is this image file name. So we can save that in our product model. Photo.file name. And if the user don't want to upload an image, we can keep it null. So that's about it. We are uploading our image into a S3 bucket. We are saving that image file name in our database. And we are printing the response at the end. Okay, we can test this out now. We can add a name. I will use headphone. Price into 40. Color into black, and we can select an image and the initial values are still there. If we tap on this save button now, yeah, we can see the response. We uploaded the image and we saved the data in our database. Now instead of console logging the response here, if we can navigate back to our home screen automatically, we can do that by calling this navigation.navigate function and pass in our route name, and we want to go to home screen, and let's comment this out. Okay, one more thing to do here. In our home screen, we need to retrieve the data and we need to show a product list here. Okay, let's do that. For that, I have prepared two more additional components. This product card component and this product list component. Let's create two new JavaScript files to hold these components. We get product card and product list. Now this is our product card component. In here we are receiving all these values: product name, product price, owner and image as props. And we are using storage library to get that image and to load a preview. And we are calling this getImage function when we render our product card. Here when we pass file name to our storage.get function, it will return the URL for that file. Now let's move on to this product list component, and we can paste it down here. In this product list component, we are rendering this flat list. Now this is the best way to render a list of components in a React Native application. And we can pass in this refresh control property. For each item, we are rendering this product card component. So we will get this product list from our home screen. So we are rendering a flat list with our product card components. We can use this product list component in our home screen now. Now in our home screen, we are fetching all our products. Let's replace the current code with what we have here. In there, I am using this list products query to retrieve all the products in our database. And we are importing our own product list component. And we are passing this fetch products function into our use effect. And this is an async function. We are calling this list products query as well. We don't need to pass any inputs. And if we have any products, we are saving this state variables. And we are calling this fetch products function inside this onRefresh function as well. And we are passing this retrieved product details and this onRefresh function into our product list component. Now that's complete setting up our home screen as well. Let's run our app. If we reload and if we go to our home screen, we can see the product card. We don't see anything here because we haven't uploaded an image for the product. But up here we can see our image, price and product title along with the product owner. Let's try adding another product. This time a t-shirt, $20. We can add the description, color into black. And we can select a new image. And if we tap on the save button, We got navigated back to our home screen. Now we can refresh this list by pulling down. Yeah, down here we got our t-shirt. Now if we log out and try to sign up as a new user, we should be able to see that product list. Let's log out. And let's try to sign up as a new user. A new username and a password. Now quick tip guys, in here since we use the username as our primary ID for our user, we can use the same email for different users because it is not the primary attribute for our authentication. But if you don't want that in your app, you may need to remove the current user pool and you may need to add a new one with your preferred authentication flow. Now let's add a contact number and if we click sign up, we need to add the confirmation code, reload and add this confirmation code. And if we sign in with the new username and password, we can still see the product list. Now if we go back to our Cognito user pool, if we refresh, yeah, we can see our 2 new users. Now if we go back to our S3 bucket console, if we refresh, we can see the 2 new image files. Now that's about it for this tutorial. If we recap on what we have done in this tutorial, we used Cognito authentication to our app. We added navigation and sign out options. We created an AppSync API and we saved and retrieved our data using that API. And we created an S3 bucket to upload an image and we retrieved that image from there as well. And yeah, thanks for watching guys. I hope you find this video helpful. At this point what you have is a really good starter mobile app that uses AWS Amplify as its backend. It's not definitely perfect. I believe this will be a really good foundation project to start using AWS Amplify services. If you like this content, we post content like this regularly, so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to receive future updates. And yeah, thank you for tuning in.